Hi, this is Ann Deutsch, and I'm going to talk about my research proposal to examine the connection between information literacy, flipped instruction, and student learning. So a good place to start is probably a definition of information literacy. So the Association of College and Research Libraries defines information literacy as the set of integrated abilities encompassing the reflective discovery of information, the understanding of how information is produced and valued, and the use of information in creating new knowledge and participating ethically in communities of learning. So information literacy is really important in higher education. It's really integrated throughout the curriculum. One place you often find it is in English composition classes. So librarians, academic librarians, are often charged with helping students develop their information literacy. And one of the common places that we do this is within undergraduate composition classes. So our challenge tends to be that we are typically allotted one class session to address information literacy, which, 60 to 75 minutes to help students develop these skills is really not enough. So what a lot of librarians have started doing is developing online modules to flip their instruction so that students get some online direct instruction before they come into the classroom, and then once they're in the classroom, that time is dedicated to applying what they've learned through that online module or tutorial. So what's interesting is that there has been a lot of research on flipped instruction in general in the classroom. And, findings are mixed, maybe a little bit increased learning for flipped instruction above traditional face-to-face or straight online. But research that directly addresses those single session information literacy sessions really is inconclusive, and findings haven't really shown much extra learning from flipped learning. So this just seems like a fruitful ground for research, since this strategy is really being used by librarians, and it's really important to know whether or not it's effective. So the purpose of the study is really to investigate the effectiveness of flipped learning in information literacy instruction for undergraduate composition students. And there are two research questions. One is really, are students learning anything in these classes, whether they're flipped or just face-to-face? And then the second question is there a difference in what they're learning between the flipped instruction and the simply face-to-face instruction? So I'm going to go ahead and use null hypotheses for these questions. And the participants in the study will be SUNY New Paltz undergraduate composition students, and will be utilizing convenient sampling, hoping for 6 sections of composition. 3 sections will have the experimental intervention, which will be the online tutorial along with the direct instruction face-to-face class, and the control intervention will be the students who just get that face-to-face class, which is what we do now. The design is quantitative. Research design is quasi-experimental, and what makes it quasi-experimental is that we're using this convenient sampling, so not quite experimental. And it's going to compare learning outcomes between those 2 interventions I just mentioned, and that will be measured with a pre-instruction quiz and a post-instruction quiz. So because there's no standard information literacy test that exists, I will have to create that test. And so then with the pre-quiz and the post-quiz, those data collection points become the pre-test score, the post-test score, the tutorial, that online module, there's a certificate of completion, so we'll look at those, and we'll also look at class attendance. So for hypothesis 1, to look at whether or not there was learning at all, we'll go ahead and utilize a paired sample t-test. And then for hypothesis 2, which is really looking at the difference between face-to-face and flipped, we'll use that paired t-test in addition with an analysis of covariance, because that's going to be able to help us take a look at that pretest difference. So the limitations, the most obvious one is the convenience sampling. Beyond that, we've got a very small sample size, and the test is locally developed, so that really doesn't help with validity. But the research does have local value, and the hope is that the methodology can be used or adjusted for larger scale study in the future.